So now that we know that the main idea is how many Americans worked very hard to make sure all citizens had the same right, we're going to keep moving on and read page 16. And based on the subheading right here, this is the subheading, it says Martin Luther King Jr., it is my right to speak out. So just from using the graphic feature of the subheading, I know that it's going to be about a man named Martin Luther King who fights for the right to speak out for all people, because that was the main idea, rights for all people. So I'm going to read paragraph 13, and if I come across a word I don't know, I circle it. Rosa Parks' actions made many people take action too. Other women called for a boycott of the Montgomery City buses. They would unite in their fight against Jim Crow laws. They asked people to walk for one day. So I'm going to circle boycott, and I'm going to just, because I'm not sure what that is. And if I recall, they did talk about Jim Crow laws on page 14. So let me just make sure I know what they are. Oh, there it is. Jim Crow laws kept African Americans from enjoying all their rights. So on page 16, the first paragraph talks about a boycott where they would fight against the laws that prevented African Americans from all their rights. Okay, so in paragraph 14, the bus boycott was a nonviolent protest. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a leader in the African American community, thought the boycott was a good idea. King believed in changing things peacefully, so I'm going to annotate that with my highlighter because it talks about Dr. Martin Luther King, which was the subheading title, and who he is. So I'm going to highlight all that. And he believed that the boycott was a good idea, and he believed in changing things peacefully, so I'm going to annotate that. Paragraph 15, it says, the one-day boycott was a success. Yay! The city buses were almost empty. Then Rosa Parks was found guilty of not obeying the law. King became the leader of a group that called for a longer boycott of city buses. For 381 days, most African Americans refused to ride the Montgomery City buses. So I'm going to annotate what King did. So after Rosa Parks was found guilty, King became the leader of a group that called for a longer boycott of buses. So I can write in my notes based on what I've just read. Here's my notes. Using all the things I annotated, I can say Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. worked hard for people's rights by leading a nonviolent or peaceful protest against laws that were not fair. And that's what I'm going to put for paragraph 15. Notice my notes are in the margins, and all I did was I took what I annotated and I wrote it down on my notes. Okay? I'm going to read paragraph 16. In paragraph 16, it says, when Martin Luther King Jr. spoke, people listened. He talked about how Black Americans and white Americans were treated differently. His words made some people angry. During the bus boycott, someone threw a bomb at his house. King continued to speak out for peaceful change. He took action too, leading marches and helping people vote. So I'm going to put what he did as an annotation. I'm going to highlight it. He led marches and helping people vote. Even though, so based on everything that's happened to him, I'm going to say on paragraph 16, Martin Luther King Jr. continued to fight peacefully even after others got violent. And that's how we use our annotations and how we turn them into notes in our margins. All I did was made sure to pay attention to the subheadings. It was about Martin Luther King and how he fought for people's rights. And in my notes is all about what he did.